Hi everybody, this is Trigonometry Lesson 8, which is the cosine law. We only have one more lesson after this in this unit. That would be Trigonometry Lesson 9. Okay, so we're almost done the unit, everyone. Okay, so Trigonometry Lesson 8, the cosine law. I am going to call mine answer key. And as usual, we start with a little warm-up, and it just reviews last lesson, actually. And it says, from last class, remember that the sine law is used to find a side or an angle in a triangle when you don't have a 90-degree angle. Okay, so the sine law and the cosine law are when you have triangles that don't have that little 90-degree box in it. So just general triangles like that, for example. And so it says try this one, find AC or B, so little b there. And we don't yet have an angle side relationship because we have this angle but we don't know this side. And we have this side but we don't know this angle. So we have to get a matching pair. And of course what you do is you have to figure out that third angle, angle C, and you go 180 minus 76 minus 41, and you get 63 degrees. And now we can use angle C and its opposite side here, and we can go sine C divided by C is equal to, and since we want to figure out little b, I would have to go sine B divided by B. And so you go sine of 63 degrees divided by 10 is equal to sine of 76 degrees and divide B. Okay, and then cross multiply, and we get B. Sine 63 degrees equals 10 sine 76. And to get B by itself, now divide both sides by sine 63. Sine 76 divided by sine 63. Bang, 10.9. Okay, so we get B is equal to 10.9 millimeters, and that is a review of the sine law. So we need to be able to find at least an angle and its opposing side, and this should say to use the sine law. Okay, so we need an angle and its opposite side, and then you need like one other side or angle to be able to solve for something else. Okay? If you don't have an angle and its opposing side, you can still find out the piece you're looking for. You now need the cosine law. Okay, and so the cosine law, see below, looks similar to the formula for the Pythagorean theorem. It looks similar to Pythagoras, right? Pythagorean theorem. Remember, the Pythagorean theorem was a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so it looks similar to that. There's just this extra piece right here. says, however, since we don't have a right angle triangle, there is an extra piece on the end, okay, this minus 2bc cos A. All right, so when using the cosine law, you just need to remember that the angle you know or want to know is labeled A. Okay, so the angle that you know, or if they're wanting you to find an angle, you label that one A, and then all of the other letters will fit in the formula. Okay, so I'll show you how this works. Yeah, then the other sides are B and C. Okay, so I'll show you how this works. Example 1, find side XZ. So they want us to find the length of this line segment right here. And we are going to relabel angle Y as angle A. Okay, because the angle that we know is relabeled as A. That means little a is the side XZ. Okay, because if this is capital A, remember how like the side across is little a? Okay, so that means A is the side XZ. Also, B and C are, once you figure out capital A and little a, guys, it doesn't matter how you label B and C. So we could make this one B and this one C. Okay, so B and C are 5 centimeters or 8 centimeters. Okay, so I'm just going to fix this a little bit. So start with the formula. A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. And we're looking for A. So this is going to continue to be A squared, but we've determined that B is 5. So we go 5 squared plus the C is 8 minus 2 times B is 5. C is 8. And then you do cos of angle A, and angle A is 70 degrees. Okay, so it's fairly easy to just plug all those numbers in and solve. Okay, so A squared is all of that, so let's work it out. And what you do is you go like this. 5 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 5 times 8 times cos 70 degrees. And we get that A squared is 61.63 and a bunch of stuff. And of course, how do we get A by itself? When we have an A squared sort of equation, you have to square root both sides. And mathematically, the plus or minus answer could work. The square root of A squared is A, and the answer that we get for A is plus or minus. I have to do the square root of that number, and the square root sign is underneath the x squared key right here, so you have to go second function x squared to get the square root key, and then we want to put in that answer, and remember how the word answer is underneath the negative sign near the bottom right there. So I go second function negative sign and it puts in answer. I close the bracket and I press enter, and my answer is 7.9. And so since A is the length of a side of a triangle, we're just going to take the positive, and we're going to say that A is 7.9, and that is centimeters. Reject, negative, answer. All right, let's try example 2. This time they want us to find MN, which is this side length here. Relabel angle L as angle A, because there's the angle that we know, the 115 degrees. We're going to relabel that as A. This means that little a is the side MN, what we're looking for. So there's little a, and then it doesn't matter how you label B and C. Also, B and C are 3 millimeters or 4 millimeters. Okay, start with the formula. A squared equals B squared plus C squared. minus 2bc cos A. So we would go a squared is equal to 3 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 3 times 4 cos of angle A, which is 115 degrees. So a squared equals 3 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 3 times 4 times cos 115. 35.14 and a bunch of stuff. And then to get a by itself, I go square root, plus or minus could work mathematically. And then I'm going to go second function x squared to get square root, and second function negative sign to put the answer in there, close the bracket, press enter. A is equal to plus or minus 5.9. Therefore, A is equal to 5.9 millimeters. Again, we are going to reject. Negative answer. Okay, and there's a little note on the side here that cos of 115 degrees is negative. So negative 2bc cos A becomes positive because there's this negative out here, and then cos A is negative. That becomes positive. Okay, but I mean, that's not a huge deal for solving the question. All right, example 3. A surveyor is trying to measure the distance of a lake, TU, sort of the length of the lake here, right? Its longest dimension. If he is standing at point S, he measures ST to be 5.18 kilometers and SU to be 3.65 kilometers, as shown in the diagram. He measures the angle between the two measurements to be 67.5 degrees. Find the distance of the lake, TU. Okay, so remember how they say whatever angle you know or you want to know, relabel that as A. We know that angle, so we'll call it A, which means the side across from it is little a. And then B and C, we can label like so. So if we want to get that distance of the lake from T to U, that is little a, and in the formula it is by itself. In the formula, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. B is 5.18, C is 3.65, and then you go minus 2 times 5.18 times 3.65 cos A is 67.5 degrees. So A squared is equal to 5.18 squared plus, I have to put a squared on the 3.65, and noticing that I'm missing that, minus 2 times 5.18 times 3.65, times cos 67.5, and we get a squared equals 25.68 and a bunch of stuff. And to get a by itself, go square root, plus or minus. A is equal to plus or minus 5.1. Therefore, A is equal to 5.1 kilometers. Alright, and now we will switch gears here. The cosine law can also be used to find angles if you have all three sides. Just remember, the angle you want to know is relabeled A. So they want us to find angle D, so we relabel angle D as A, and then this helps us label our sides. That means little a is the side 7 meters, right? Because little a will be across from capital A, like so. Okay, so since this is little a, that's little a, and once you've determined where little a is, it doesn't matter which one is B and which one is C, because they are on the same side of the equation. Also, B and C are 8 meters or 10 meters. These are kind of interchangeable. So start with the formula a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. And this time, guys, the thing that we want to get by itself is capital A, the angle. So I often give this transposed formula on any test or quiz as well, but what we have to do is we have to get that A by itself. And so what's happening? Cos is acting on it. It's multiplied by negative 2bc. We're adding c squared and we're adding b squared. So what I have to do is subtract b squared, subtract c squared from both sides. And we get a squared minus b squared minus c squared equals negative 2bc cos A. And then divide both sides by negative 2bc. And we get that cos A is equal to all of this a squared minus b squared minus c squared divided by negative 2bc. And now we can start to plug in some numbers. A is 7, so I have 7 squared minus the b is 8, and the c is 10, so minus 8 squared minus 10 squared, all divided by negative 2 times b is 8 and c is 10. Okay, it's got to be divided by all of that. Okay, which leads me to cos A as equaling, I'll put the top in brackets too so there's no problems, 7 squared minus 8 squared minus 10 squared divided by, in brackets, negative 2 times 8 times 10. Okay, 0.71875. Awesome, and then we can say, therefore, angle A is cos inverse of that ratio. So I have to go shift cos, and I'm going to go second function negative sign to get that word answer in there, and we get that angle A is 44 degrees. Okay, and finally we will finish off with example 5. A freighter is entering a harbor whose entrance is 0.5 kilometers wide. If the distance from the ship to each side of the harbor is 3.8 kilometers and 4.1 kilometers, find the angle the harbor master must steer between in order to make it safely into the harbor. Okay, so we have to figure out this angle right here. And the angle that you know or you want to know is labeled A. So that's A, which means right across from A, this is going to be little a, and then it doesn't matter how you label B and C. So we would go A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. And if you want to, as I mentioned, I'll give you the formula for cos A, like the one where you get cos A by itself. It looks like this: A squared minus B squared minus C squared, all divided by negative 2BC. Okay, so that's how the formula would be if you got cos A by itself. So cos A is going to equal 0.5 squared minus 4.1 squared minus 3.8 squared, all divided by negative 2 times 4.1 times 3.8. Okay, so it's the whole top divided by the whole bottom. Okay, so cos A ends up equaling 0.5 squared minus 4.1 squared minus 3.8 squared divided by negative 2 times 4.1 times 3.8, 0.9948, and a bunch of stuff. And we can say, therefore, angle A is cos inverse of that ratio, 0.9948, and a bunch of stuff. Okay, so angle A is equal to, I need to go second function cos to get cos inverse, and I want to put that answer in, and answer is under the negative key, so second function negative key, close the bracket, and press enter. 5.8 degrees is our angle. Alright, there you go, everybody. That is Trig Lesson 8 on the cosine law. Here is the assignment. Okay, with an answer key at the end, I'm pretty sure. Yes, there's an answer key. And as usual, I will do a video answer key to show you the solutions to all of these questions, and I will send that later in the week. Alright, there you go, everyone. I will talk to you soon.